That's all I needed. Good cup of tea.
With this ring, I thee biodamp.
My children may feast on marten flesh.
Oh, but I'm not from Mars.
I'm having a neural implosion. I need...
What do you need?
I need...
Just say it. Tell me. Painkillers?
I need...
Do you need aspirin? Codeine? Paracetamol? Oh, I don't know. Pepto-Bismol?
I need...
Lipoparaffin? Vitamin C? Vitamin D? Vitamin E?
I need...
Is it food? Something simple. Bowl of soup. Nice bowl of soup. Soup in a sandwich. Oh, soup in a little ham sandwich.
I need you to shut up.
Oh, he hasn't changed that much, has he?
You heard it up top. We are once again getting a little timey-wimey here on this podcast as we take a step into the Tardis and talk about Doctor Who, specifically the holiday specials, here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, the Colin.
The Mike.
Oh, and this is the Jacob.
And you're listening to the podcast.
Jacob and the best Jacob.
Yeah, Normies Like Us.
All those other Jacobs died so horribly, they kept regenerating.
It's the 10th Jacob. We're gonna need another
I'm the 10th Jacob.
Right. Well, we're gonna Sonic Screw dive into the Doctor Who Christmas specials. You know, I think that's a pretty good one.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, this is an idea that actually, Colin, I think you had when I mentioned on our last Watcha that I'd been watching this new show called Doctor Who.
Totally new.
Yes, I've never heard of it before. And we decided, because they do traditionally an annual Christmas special most years since 2005. So I thought, it would be a good idea to look at the first two Christmas specials in the David Tennant 10th Doctor era.
Yep.
Yeah. That was kind of my pitch for it. It's a show known for its holiday specials, so why not dive into your new passion?
That's right. And I've been watching
with some holiday spirit.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who recently, and it is relevant because there's these new specials that are coming out with David Tennant and Catherine Tate, Donna Noble, coming back for 3 specials that just aired. I just finished the third one that came out on Saturday. And there's going to be a new Christmas special this Christmas featuring the 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa. So I'm very excited for that.
Interesting.
It's too much, maybe.
No, but I guess for listeners out there, I guess what we'll be referring to on this episode is the David Tennant returns, the 10th Doctor, right? And then this is season 1, the final episode of Christmas Invasion, and then season 2, is that correct? The Runaway Bride.
Let me give you a quick context just in case for normies who don't know. I mentioned it a little bit on the Watcha, but just to catch everyone up. So basically, Doctor Who, what is it? It's a long-running British sci-fi show that first aired in 1963. It ran until 1989 when it was canceled due to poor ratings. Then it was off the air for a while. Then they brought it back in 2005 with a guy named Christopher Eccleston as the 9th Doctor. He did 1 season on that with the companion Rose Tyler, played by Billie Piper. He left after 1 season and he regenerated into the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant. Who then was on for 3 seasons. His first season, he was with Rose Tyler. His second season, he was with a new companion, Martha Jones. And then third season, Donna Noble, which basically, I'll explain how that works. So basically, at the end of the first season, we get the first Christmas special, the Christmas Invasion. And this happens right after the 9th Doctor regenerates into the 10th Doctor in the season 1 finale. So this is the first appearance of David Tennant.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and then in season 2, he has a full season with Rose as his companion. That season ends. There's a big 2-part season finale. Very sad. What happens to Rose? Basically, she gets trapped in a parallel dimension and separated from the Doctor. So he's very sad about it in this second special that you guys watched. And that is called The Runaway Bride. So essentially, right after he says his final goodbye to Rose, gets back in his TARDIS, he's all sad and stuff, and then this bride appears in the TARDIS, and he's like, what's going on?
What?
Yeah. And this is Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate. She was originally a one-off, appearance in this episode with the option to bring her back. She did not come back for the 3rd season, which was David Tennant's 2nd season. So they had a different companion, Martha Jones, played by Freema Agyeman, who I love Martha Jones. but then she did come back in the third season and got a full season as the companion to the Doctor, Donna Noble.
Got it. And that context
And
was useful, having not
yes,
seen any Doctor Who, but yeah.
yes, there's a lot to catch up on, but basically her story wraps up in a very sad way as well, which I can explain. And then when they came back in 2023, I should say basically David Tennant did 3 seasons, then he did another Christmas special, he did 2 more. He did a total of 4 specials after his last season. Christmas 08, then like a spring 09, fall 09, and then Christmas 09. That was his last appearance until 2023 when he came back. So in that one, he regenerates in the end into Matt Smith, the start of the Matt Smith era.
Right.
And that was his last appearance until this very year when David Tennant and Catherine Tate came back to kind of wrap up their storyline after 15 years. So that's pretty exciting.
That is pretty
And the
interesting.
original showrunner, Russell T Davies, who was the first showrunner of the New Who from 2005 to 2010, also is coming back or came back for these specials and in the future. But basically, New Who has had 3 showrunners: Russell T Davies for the Eccleston and Tennant eras. Then Stephen Moffat took over, who was a writer on Doctor Who. He also created the show Sherlock. He was the showrunner for the Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi eras. And then he left, and Chris Chibnall took over, who was also a writer on Doctor Who, and created the show Broadchurch, starring David Tennant and Jodie Whittaker, 2 different doctors.
Olivia Colman, but not a Doctor Who, but yes.
She was in Doctor Who. Yeah.
Right.
There we go.
And pretty much any British actor you can think of has probably been on Doctor Who at some point. So Chris Chibnall took over for the Jodie Whittaker era, not the most loved era. He left, and Russell T Davies has returned, and that's where we're at today. So,
right. So we're kind of
we
jumped into the first appearance of David Tennant. I think a lot of people really liked his performance, and that's why he's coming back in 2023. So we're kind of checking out the early days, right?
Absolutely. And this second special, The Runaway Bride, is the first appearance of Donna Noble, who goes on to be one of my favorite characters as a companion. Like, she gets a lot of character growth. I don't love her in this episode. She starts as kind of an annoying character, but she gets so much growth. She ends up a really interesting character, and then has this plot line, like I said, that gets resolved after 15 years, which is pretty crazy.
It's like coming back to do Star Trek Picard again. Yeah, 20 years later.
Yeah.
But before we jump into it, so Colin, I had never seen any Doctor Who except that one episode, as I'd said, so this was all new to me, so it's an interesting vector. How were you feeling approaching this? It was kind of your pitch, but had you seen these at all, or you just knew about the specials that it's famous for?
Yeah, I think I'd said that my brother was a fan. When he came home, we would throw on, I think for the holidays, we would, just occasionally find some of the specials. But I gotta say, I'm really coming into this as a hater, not trying to be, because this is often what I describe when I say something that's not for me. I'll say some Doctor Who bullshit.
Understandable.
I'm trying to figure out the vocabulary for what I mean for that. I'm excited to explore it as we discuss these episodes and sort of critically what I found interesting about them, all that good stuff. But I will say, I am a bit of an Anglophile in that I was raised by a father who spent a lot of time in England, lived there for a little, came back with a severe interest in their culture, would watch Monty Python, we would flip on BBC, we'd watch a lot of Grant Naylor's Red Dwarf, and then in waiting for that show to come on, there would be this little weirdo in a rainbow scarf who I would very much be like, oh, get off here, old, dusty, weird thing, get to my weird, funny space show.
But it is a weird, funny space show.
But it is, Jacob. And I'll also say this, Mike, I don't know your history with this property, but Jacob, I'll say you, out of my friend group, are the only one other than myself who kind of has a passion and interest for Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yes,
which I would argue is very much like what we watch today. So again, I don't know what it is specifically about Doctor Who, but I'm excited to explore it. I don't know.
Yeah. And just to give my experience with Doctor Who.
And why you came to watch it, I'd be very curious too.
Well, I talked a little bit about it on the Watch Up, but my experience in the past is that I did watch it as it was coming out in the Eccleston and Tennant eras. So basically from 2005 to 2008, I was watching concurrently. And then I pretty much said, all right, David Tennant's leaving. I'm done with this show. Did not watch any Doctor Who from 2008 until this year, you know. So I am, you know, everything past the Tennant area is kind of new to me. So I'm now doing the full rewatch, and it's very interesting. And then with Classic Who, I'm really not too familiar with Classic Who either, other than I know the different Doctors, like what they look like and their kind of personas and stuff. But there's a lot of, I mean, it's old, you know, 60s and 70s television, not the most exciting thing. And, you know, Doctor Who was originally a show that the BBC made it was an educational show to teach kids about history and science, because they would do science episodes where they would be in space and stuff, sci-fi type stuff. And then they would do straight up history where they would just go to some past historical event or something, and it was very educational. So it's changed a lot over the years, the different eras. I mean, it's been on as long as, you know, any show that you could think of. So there's been many different eras, many different styles of Who, but I am a fan of the new Who, especially the, you know, what I call the golden era, which is the Eccleston and Tennant eras. So
and Mike, is there any reason in particular like you weren't drawn to it? Can you think? Or
I don't know, because I also did kind of grow up with the Monty Python stuff and like a little bit of that going on, but it just never came on our television set. Like we were watching Star Wars or other sci-fi. My uncles watched Star Trek, but nobody like that would be able to have an impression upon me to show me it or whatever. Nobody ever showed it to me, so I just never really saw it. I watched a lot of Mystery Science Theater.
It feels so Star Trek, Jacob. Like I see what you like in it.
Absolutely. It is very Star Trek. That's kind of why I was drawn to it, because I was like, I remember liking these old seasons back in 2005. Maybe I'll give them a rewatch. I know the quality has dipped in recent years in the different eras. That's the reputation that it has anyways, that the writing quality has sort of gone down over time. Russell T. Davies is kind of considered the best of the new showrunners, so I'm glad he's back. They were kind of losing ratings for a while, so they're going back to the old formula. And I should also say, I'm not a huge Anglophile. There are certain British things I like. I like the Beatles, you know, I like Monty Python and everything. I like Hitchhiker's Guide, but also as an American of Irish heritage, I'm very anti-British.
Okay.
So I begrudgingly like Doctor Who.
You're betraying your people.
There is the silliness that I watch this, where I think like, God, these fucking people were ruled by a queen. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I guess it's a good time to jump into it. You know, who knew Cindy Lou Who Christmas related things. We're gonna do the Doctor Who Christmas specials, Christmas Invasion, Runaway Bride, Tennant era, right after this.
All right, we're back. We're talking Doctor Who. Stepping out of the TARDIS here on Normies Like Us. Pulling out our little sonic screwdrivers.
Got to go fast.
Yes. And if I can explain, so Doctor Who, like I said, or the Doctor, he's generally not called Doctor Who. He's called just the Doctor. His actual name is like a big secret within the show that it's like a big plot point later on. It's like a mystery. But who is the Doctor, right? Well, he's an immortal alien known as a Time Lord from the planet Gallifrey. And essentially the Time Lords were a race of aliens that had control over time and space, kind of like the TVA in Loki, very much function the same way. They sort of control the proper flow of time, right? Make sure things happen how they're supposed to happen. Before the 2005 reboot, off screen, there's this big thing called the Time War that happened, where the Time Lords are fighting their ultimate nemesis is the Daleks. There's this big war across time and space. And the Doctor is essentially responsible for killing everyone in that battle, including his entire race of Time Lords. So he is known as the last Time Lord because he had to do it to protect essentially the universe from being destroyed.
Like the Council of Kangs there could only be he who remains, essentially, and that's our Doctor.
Right. He's he who remains. The final Time Lord. And he flies around in his ship known as the Tardis. Now, what is the Tardis? Well, it's an
It's a phone
acronym.
booth.
Yeah, it's a 1960s police box, a British police box. And you're wondering, why is it like that? Well, there's a reason, because it, the TARDIS is a, well, first of all, it's an acronym. It stands for Time and Relative Dimension in Space. So there you go. And why is it a police box? Well, it's a time machine / spaceship, and it has a camouflaging element to it, so it can blend in with its surroundings. But it got stuck on 60s police box and it broke, so now it's just stuck on that permanently. So that is the reason within the show why it looks like that.
Dude.
So we have
it's
just
bigger on the inside.
Yeah, it's bigger on the inside. Fun fact about my favorite time travel series, Time Lords, Wild Stallions, Bill and Ted. They did not copy the TARDIS with the phone booth, but the Doctor Who people were like, "Hey, man, you're copying our police box." But it was kind of just a big coincidence. It was going to be a van, I think, originally. But anyway, that's my
TARDIS.
a lot
of jokes
actual
about it.
phone booth, though.
Yeah.
They make a lot of jokes about it within the show because people these days don't know what that is, because it hasn't existed since like the 60s. Right. So it's kind of a relic of its time. That's kind of what I find so endearing about the show, is that all this lore and stuff was made up in the 60s, and then they just kind of keep going with it. Like, the Daleks are the Doctor's ultimate enemy, and they just look like these giant trash cans that kind of wheel around, but they're actually like space Nazis. They're like, it's kind of a Krang situation where there's like an alien inside of this robot body thing. But they literally just look like giant R2-D2s.
They're not good at making robots, these Daleks. They're not upgraded. No. But they stick to the 60s iconography.
Yeah,
but we don't deal with any of them in
Cybermen.
these. But they name drop the Cybermen. They're name dropping a lot of this stuff throughout these episodes. So there is a little bit of lore that I feel like I had to fill in the blanks here and there on some of these.
The way you guys are watching it, having only seen these Christmas specials,
proper way,
and not watching the actual seasons in between, you're kind of missing some of because they're basically referencing things that happened in the season, right? So right before the Runaway Bride, there was a big, like I said, 2-part finale where the Daleks and the Cybermen team up to try to take over Earth.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where Torchwood comes in. There's this big battle of Earth. Right. And that's when Rose Tyler gets stuck in this alternate dimension. But it's good because in this alternate dimension, her dad is alive because he's actually dead in her. He died when she was a baby in the Prime timeline. So he's alive in this other timeline. So she gets to live happily ever after with her family reunited. So that's nice, but she can never see the Doctor again. But then eventually she gets a clone of the Doctor that just goes off and lives with her, and they live happily ever after. But that's
nice.
Wild.
That's in the future.
Okay. No, I'm very much Donna Noble. I'm like, who are you? What is this? What is happening? Yeah. What are we doing? That was me on these episodes.
Sure.
Where I'm at.
Yeah. And that's what I'm here to explain, any references or anything that you guys don't quite understand.
Well, because they even reference the Christmas invasion in Runaway Bride, not to get ahead of ourselves. Like, you didn't see that spaceship? You're like,
that's right.
I was just hungover. I don't know.
I was drunk.
It kind of becomes a running joke because aliens attack the Earth so much in this show. Right. That normal humans are just so oblivious to what's going on around them that they never notice these things. And there's like, humans are so oblivious.
Well, kind of accurate now. People are like, it's not true or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of a commentary on us for sure. But let's start with the Christmas invasion, right?
Yes, indeed.
So this was Christmas 2005. I don't know if you guys remember that. I was
what a time.
A sprightly age of 15.
16.
Probably playing my Xbox 360 or whatever.
Yeah, 16, driving. God, that was probably a good year for me.
Yeah, not bad at all. Living in Ohio, not England, though, however.
That's right. Good old Ohio. So, we had one season of, like I said, the 9th Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, who I enjoy as a Doctor. He can get...
Can we pause on... real quick? Now, Jacob, somebody was going to do like a watch through now and like do all the Doctor Who's or whatever. Is it even worth it watching this first season with this other guy?
I think so. I like Christopher Eccleston. He has good chemistry with with Billie Piper. Actually, Billie Piper has good chemistry with the 9th and 10th Doctors, strangely. She's just, good actor or whatever. But
I like that.
Yeah. No, it's kind of, I like him. The reasons surrounding why he left after only one season is a little confusing. He left on his own accord because I guess he didn't want to get typecast. Not that he really had an amazing career post Doctor Who. But he's in a little, I don't know if he had the best working conditions or he had the best relationship with the production company or whatever behind the scenes. I don't know. He's been very standoffish to the Doctor Who fandom pretty much ever since. So don't know what happened there, but I like Christopher Eccleston. He just didn't get enough time to really make the Doctor his own. And then he kind of got showed up by the next guy that came in and became like the most popular Doctor ever.
And we love David Tennant. Who Young, Broadchurch.
Popular guy.
Yeah.
Fucking eats lunch. Yeah, that's how.
Yeah, he's great. This is then the first episode. I guess watching that season would give you background of Rose and the Doctor and like their relationship, because she does seem like she's familiar, in this episode. And I was, a little
literally,
bit unaware of that.
The pilot of the New Who in 2005 was called Rose, and you see everything from her perspective. So she is the main character essentially. She's the audience surrogate. And you see the Doctor through her eyes, and you're slowly kind of introduced to this world. And so, I think the first season is worth watching, and there's some good episodes in there. It's a little like Star Trek, where the first season they're still trying to figure things out. Again, they didn't have a huge budget either, so it's like you can definitely tell. But it's worth watching. And then you get to the finale, and the last scene is him. He gets a nice little speech. He regenerates into David Tennant. David Tennant says, "New teeth." That's the first thing he says, "New teeth," because it's weird to have new teeth in your mouth,
Yeah,
and then that episode ends, and then the next appearance we get is the Christmas Vacation. What am I saying? Christmas Invasion.
Yep.
Regenerates into Chevy Chase. It's very interesting.
Rose
and so we
Rusty.
start with the TARDIS crashing into the ground. He comes out. He's wearing Christopher Eccleston's Doctor outfit, which is a black leather jacket, black t-shirt. That was very much his vibe. The 10th Doctor's vibe is like a skinny pinstripe suit with Chuck Taylor's, right? That's his that's his look.
Waistcoat,
which you see at the end when he's picking out his clothes that will define him, as because each Doctor has their own kind of style and persona that
their own look
they have. Yeah,
I assume a million Easter eggs and.
Oh, there's got to be a ton.
That scene, because we see the scarf. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you see some of the old Doctor's outfits in that scene for sure. But we start with.
Yeah, I'd say the big thing with this is he's regenerating. So there's a threat happening, but the Doctor's still not really available to help us at any point. So
he essentially spends a lot of this episode just lying in bed in his gym jams, as he says.
Yep.
Taking a nap because he hasn't fully regenerated, right? So he's in the process of regenerating. So the TARDIS crashes to Earth. He comes out. He's wearing Chris Eccleston's leather jacket. We are introduced to two characters that you're probably not familiar with, which is Jackie, Rose Tyler's mom, and Mickey, her boyfriend. So, which these are characters that were in season 1. So, but they're like, oh, the TARDIS is here. They hear the famous noise that it makes. They're like, they run to it. They see this new guy. They're like, who the heck is this guy? And then Rose Tyler comes out and she's like, it's the Doctor. And then we get a very funny joke where her mom is like, Doctor Who? And then title sequence. Classic,
that's like
cold
Invincible.
open.
Like every time Doctor Who, that's how every episode should open.
I assume that's how every episode,
Well, surprisingly, they don't use that as much as you would think, which they really should. But
like that's your act
very
one
funny to me, though.
Setup. Yeah, you meet the players Doctor Who anyway. So but they did get that joke in for this one, so that works.
Yeah, so he's talking to Mickey and Jackie like they should know him and stuff. And he's like, Merry Christmas. And they're like, who is this guy, right?
Your teeth are so different than they were last time.
So this episode, really the theme of it kind of is the 10th Doctor. Who is he? What defines him? Like, what kind of man is he? That's kind of what this episode is about, right? He's still trying to figure that out.
He's even asking that out loud, like, I don't know what type of man I am in some scenes.
Exactly.
What am I going to do? Yeah.
And all these characters that were familiar with the 9th Doctor are like, is he like the same guy? Like, even Rose is like very questioning, like, I was so used to this other guy. Now it's like this complete stranger. I don't know what he's about or anything like that. Which I think is interesting because this is the first time in the New Who that we had a regeneration, right? Now we've had like 4 or 5 by now, but this show had just come back. They didn't know if it was going to last. Like, they didn't know if it was going to have the audience. And and then they get lucky with David Tennant, who just crushes the role basically.
Once
And
he
the
actually
character
is in the
can-
episode, yeah. Go ahead, Colin.
Well, I was just gonna say the character can just regenerate forever.
Yeah.
He's just immortal.
Yeah, so they they use this as a way to get around the actor leaving. Like the first Doctor was very old when he took over the role in 63, and he's basically like about to die. So he's like, I have to leave this role because my health is failing. And they're like, well, we could just recast, and like they used a sci-fi explanation of he can regenerate into a new face, a new completely new body, right? So they can do that as many times as they want. Well, originally they had a limit on it, but there was plot reasons why. Now it's just as many times as they want.
Whenever we need to.
Yeah.
Generally every 3
and
seasons.
As of 2023, there have been 15 mainline doctors, you could say. There's also the War Doctor and the Fugitive Doctor. It's very confusing. The lore gets so confusing after like the Matt Smith era. So, but essentially there's 15. Doctor. Yeah, that's a good one.
Thanks.
But yeah, so he can regenerate whenever the actor wants to leave the role, essentially, or the studio wants the actor to leave the role, which has happened before as well, where they ask them not to come back.
Ouch.
Yeah, mainly I think the 6th Doctor back in the 80s was what the studio was like. This guy sucks. We got to get.
He was the big fat guy.
I think he was. I don't know, but he was.
Was he the handsome celery guy? That guy was light.
No,
right?
That's the 5th Doctor.
Okay,
the 6th Doctor wore an insanely weird coat with a bunch of different
colors. Oh, it's like a clown
it.
coat. Yeah, he's got curls, blonde curls. Yeah. Okay.
And the ratings were failing at this point. They tried to bring in the 7th Doctor. They kept going down, and that's when it got canceled in '89.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but the 10th
plot-wise, well, the regeneration here is like his enemies can sense his energy, and they want to catch him while he's weak. Essentially, that's kind of what the plot is here.
Yeah, he's giving off residual energy, which these pilot fish, as he calls them, are like attracted to, which are kind of these robot scavengers, which are pilot fish, and that they, pilot fish are swim in the wake of bigger predators in the ocean and stuff. And so he's like, this is a sign that something else is coming, right?
Yeah.
And so we get our antagonists, which are this giant alien spaceship. Well, Britain launches a probe that's going to Mars.
That's right.
So they capture this probe. Yeah.
The British space program.
Oh, you know what? Here's what I want to talk about real quick. Because the footage, I think this is important to point out. The footage of showing them watching the probe, like they keep cutting to this press conference that they're showing people watching on the TV, is indicative of something that I think we should talk about a little bit. Jacob, you said this started as like a paid education program. It obviously did. Important to point out how British television is made, because I think this is a reason that I don't like Doctor Who and why it looks like fucking dog shit, which is that the government makes stuff. Like, unlike us, we have one government-funded broadcast channel. It's called PBS,
Public Broadcasting.
Public Broadcasting Services. Now, there used to be 4 channels in the UK. I think there's more now, but there was BBC One, BBC Two, ITV, and Channel 4. And those are the government's channels.
Yes.
So the government, you pay taxes. I don't know if you know this, guys. You pay a licensing fee to turn your TV on in the UK. You have to pay an annual fee for owning a television.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because the government funds the arts.
Yes.
So because of that, bureaucratically, it just takes a very long time to replace these cameras. The UK took forever to transition to high definition. They shoot on cameras that basically look like TV theatrical cameras.
Dang.
Sorry,
Yes, these first few seasons are shot in standard definition.
Dog shit. Look like
but it's the early 2000s. Things were different then. Eventually,
but by this point, animation domination on Fox had like The Simpsons looked better by this point. Like stuff wasn't letterbox in the US by this point. In the UK, stuff still looked letterbox.
Right.
Like I was saying, they didn't have the biggest budget when the show first came out. Like it was a very big gamble because they're like, this show's been off for like 15 years. We don't know if it's going to have an audience. They already tried to bring it back in the 90s and that didn't work. So they're like, we're not going to give you a huge budget. Yeah.
Right.
We're going to give you a very limited budget to do this and we'll see how it goes. But over time, they did get more of a budget. They eventually switched to high def. I believe in 2010, basically starting with the Matt Smith era. I think there's a couple.
Oh, so like 5 seasons are in standard def. That's wild, dude.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't look great, but I kind of find, again, the low budget kind of endearing, like the bad special effects sometimes, like it's kind of its time, but I mean, I feel the same way about Star Trek Enterprise. Like that didn't always look great.
I think that's so important to point out because the UK experience is so different in that here in America, when you make something, it's like, all right, put your money where your mouth is. The actual term to use that in the UK is like, you can write a letter to the Prime Minister, be like, oh, I didn't like that you used my money to put on that punk rock.
Yeah.
Really, the BB like, oh shit, like fucking, we're getting a lot of these. Like, we have to make changes, and they do. They like fall to the pressure and stuff. It's just a very different system. So
that is very interesting.
But I do
known about that.
Compared to how entertainment is kind of made in America, where it's hyper capitalist, like
well, we don't fund the arts. Our government funds no arts. I mean, it's horrible.
Private industry only. Yeah.
Like true. BBC compared to PBS, like nobody watches PBS in America, but BBC is like the main channel in Britain. Like people watched, like Doctor Who was like the most watched show when it came, like every time it was on, it was like the most watched thing on TV. So, and it's really a tradition for England that they going back so far that people are like have grown up with Doctor Who, so they just tune in every time. And so it did get good ratings. It was a huge success, and especially when they went to Tenet because he was so popular. So.
No, yeah, and I now that I know that, Colin, it makes sense, this whole space probe thing, because as I'm watching it, I'm like, this is giving like 24 levels of nationalism of like our space program and the on the honor of British science, we're doing it, you know.
The Prime Minister is a character, Mike.
Okay.
Well, and she's a character.
She's in on it.
Returning character too, so that's why you guys aren't familiar. But Harriet Jones, Prime Minister, they met her before.
The president knows Doctor Who kind of thing. It's incredible.
Well, I think it's funny because it's so England-centric. We're used to seeing, whenever there's like an alien invasion or something, it's going to be in New York, because America, we're the center of the world. But England sees themselves as the center of the world, even though they're like a dying empire who doesn't.
Right. So I love seeing that perspective too, because no one's really the center of the earth. But it's funny, like it's so pro England, and go England, do your thing, go off.
Yeah.
Oh well, we'll learn in the second episode what is the center of the earth. It's a spider crystal.
That's right.
That's true.
That's right. That's why you have so Harriet Jones, the Prime Minister in this, she was in an episode where she was just an MP, right, a member of Parliament, and she met Rose and the Doctor. They had a whole alien adventure together, so that's why she knows Rose and stuff like that. And her catchphrase, she always is like introduces herself, and then people say, "Yes, we know who you are." So that's why that's a kind of a reoccurring joke in this episode as well.
Yeah.
Even the sicker acts, the aliens are like, "Yes, we know who you are."
Yeah, that's really great.
A lot of really funny stuff in here that
I enjoyed. Like, people trying to give her a briefing about Doctor Who, and she's like, "I know all of that already. Like, I am not surprised." And I go,
"Yeah,
okay."
Because the government knows about the aliens and everything.
So the aliens catch the probe, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So this probe is being sent to Mars. The aliens intercept it. It has a blood sample as part of its like.
This is a really cool sci-fi plot. Yes.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Because this is a real thing that we do. Like we send out these probes, and they have like numbers and math on them, and like music or whatever, like to show like everything that we're kind of about, over here on Earth.
A map of our solar system. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
And one of the things they included is a blood sample, a type A blood sample, right? And that'll be important later. So this alien ship, this giant alien ship is coming towards Earth, and they make contact, right? And they send out a message saying basically, we own you now. You're our slaves. So get ready to be dominated, human race, because we're coming, right?
Yep. And the Doctor is sleeping.
Yes, he's out of commission. He is regenerating.
So it's up to the Prime Minister to try to handle it in the meantime, right? Like, do her best.
Right. So let's see. What should we talk about?
Aliens look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should talk briefly about Rose Tyler. Again, she's a companion to the Doctor. Essentially, what that means is the Doctor is this immortal Time Lord alien. He has this love of humans because of their human nature, kind of like he's just fascinated by this human race. So he comes to Earth all the time,
like
finds a human that he likes, and is like, hey, you want to come do adventures with me? And sometimes there's somewhat of a romantic kind of thing where. Well, a lot of the companions, they just fall in love with the Doctor, but the Doctor is like kind of a weird asexual alien that doesn't reciprocate. So it's like a weird reoccurring trend where these female companions fall in love with this immortal alien.
Emotionally unavailable alien.
But I figured that's what this was till we met the boyfriend.
Well, yeah, and the boyfriend, Mickey, unfortunately, basically is treated very badly by Rose throughout the show, because every time the Doctor shows up, she's like, oh, I'm going with the Doctor. And he's like, well, what about me? Like, I thought we were happy, back here at home. And she's like, but I need to go see the stars. So he can never compete with the Doctor. But he gets a happy ending in the end.
That's good. Yeah. Jean-Luc loved space first before anything else too,
That's right.
Sometimes
that's kind of what the Donald Noble character, what makes her so good is that after two young, attractive companions who are in love with the Doctor, being Rose and Martha Jones, they want to do something different, so they have a more platonic relationship with Donna Noble, where they almost have a brother-sister vibe, and there's no romantic tension between them. So
right, and we'll meet her refreshing when we get to Runaway Bride. Yeah. So cool.
And like I said, she comes back. She actually becomes a really good character.
She's coming back. I was 2023. She's back, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. But Christmas Invasion. So the Doctor's out of commission. The Prime Minister and these scientists and these generals and everything are like, okay, we need to, handle this. The President of the U.S. is like trying to butt in, and Prime Minister's like, no, we're not. We're
not going to start a war.
Too warlike. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is very, this show is very 2000s, very War on Terror, which was happening at the time, of course. George W. Bush, maybe you've heard of him.
Yeah.
Great guy. Anyways.
So they try to play hardball, right? They're like, we're not going to give in to your demands, at which point aliens are like, well, check this out. And then all of a sudden, like 1/3 of humanity starts walking to the edge of buildings, and they're like holding 1/3 of humanity hostage. And it's like, oh shit.
Yes, they're somehow psychically controlling 1/3 of humanity. They all walk up to a high place and they're standing on a ledge like they're going to jump. And they say, if you don't comply with us, we will have all these people jump to their deaths.
Which is crazy, like, I like this part. I'm like, that's like pretty threatening. Like and they showed like different cities around Europe and stuff. It's like, it's not just England. This is worldwide. This is happening. And I think they stayed in Europe because at first I was like, that's not the right time zone. But they were in Rome and I think it would still be daytime. So anyway.
So the Prime Minister gets beamed up to this alien spaceship. She's like, let me go talk to these people as the representative of Earth. And
General tries to talk shit, gets vaporized. Like, they're not playing games. Like, they show that they mean business. Yeah.
And the scientist, who was like, this is all my fault. I put the type A blood in it and everything.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Best joke real quick. My God, look at them. When they take the helmets off, they could look like us, like Earthlings. They take off. He's like, oh no, oh my God.
They don't. Yeah.
And again, you can see the budget here because there's only one alien that you ever see that part of their face. Everyone else is just wearing the helmets. But they do what they can, It's
a cool looking design, to be fair.
Yeah,
the one we do see. Yeah.
Very Star Trek. But so the Prime Minister is like, hey, what's going on here? Please don't, kill all of us, but we're not going to surrender. We're fucking humans. We are armed and we will not give up without a fight, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, you have Rose and the Doctor, Jackie and Mickey back at home. They're like fretting about the Doctor, like, oh, he's sick. What's going on? He has two hearts because Time Lords have two hearts, of course. They have two heartbeats, as everyone knows.
Yep. His heart's beating. That's good, but I wish the other one would too. And you're like, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did learn about that.
What else does he have two of? Yeah.
Right.
So they're like, okay, aliens are attacking. The Doctor's out of commission. Earth is basically fucked. We're going to go inside of the Tardis, which is the safest place to be because the Tardis is like this super, it's like, it's a spaceship / time machine that is very, once you're inside of it, you can't be harmed. Like it's very powerful.
It's like Dimension Door in D&D. Like it's kind of out of time and space once you're inside of it, right?
It's like a pocket dimension type of thing.
Yeah.
That's why it's bigger on the inside. So they take the Doctor in there, and they're all like, "Okay, we're gonna hide out in the TARDIS until he wakes up or whatever." Meanwhile, by activating the TARDIS, they alert the aliens to this alien presence on Earth. They're like, "What is this? Let's bring it up into our spaceship." So the TARDIS gets beamed up into their spaceship. With unbeknownst to Mickey and Rose, who are inside at the moment,
Right.
Rose goes outside, and all of a sudden she's on an alien spaceship, right? And there's aliens there. So now we have, Rose and Mickey with the Prime Minister, like, "Oh, Rose Tyler, I remember you," blah blah blah.
And Rose's Gambit. She decides to try to do a Time Lord speech that she's presumably heard, I assume. She tries to pretend to be the Doctor and invoke the space clause or something like that.
She's
the laws of space.
Trying to project this confidence that the Doctor has, because the Doctor, he talks his way out of a lot of situations by just being confident and charismatic and stuff. So she's mentioning all these alien races, which are references to the different aliens that she's met in that first season. So she's name dropping all these aliens. The Shadow Proclamation, which is a real thing.
Fun writing.
Great name. Yeah.
So it's great. You get all these references to the first season. And then after this big speech, they just all laugh at her, right? The aliens laugh at her. Like, you're funny, but we're going to kill you now. And so basically they're stalling because the Doctor is out of commission, the one person that can kind of save all of Earth. And there's this funny bit where Jackie Tyler, Rose's mom, is like, all he needs is like a nice cup of tea. That's the British way. Just have a nice cup of tea. That'll fix you right up. And then that's what ends up, helping him in the end because Mickey spills some tea in the TARDIS. He kind of gets soaked up into the Doctor. He's like, that's all I needed. I'm back in action, right? He comes out and it's the Doctor, right? Wearing his Jim Jams.
The power of tea and his Jimmy Jams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out real quick. No, we get attacked by the Christmas tree and he saves them and he's like ran out of energy. Like that's a fun scene. So that's when they hide into the TARDIS. So he had to use some energy and it kind of slowed down his recovery even more. But the tea did the job. And I do want to mention I liked the president when she is like, "Hey, England, this sucks, but 1/3 of us are gonna die because we will not roll over." I'm like, you are crazy right now. To it was pretty dark, but
And she's like, "I'm sorry, right? It's not the Queen's speech. Where's the royal family? Oh, they're up on the roof. Okay.
Yeah.
Guess they have type A blood.
They all have the same blood.
Yeah, of course. We get some. I mean, this is pretty heavy Star Wars references. Yeah.
Star Wars, Star Treks.
No, I say wars, and that we sort of get this little duel at the end. He's behanded, and he very much calls out, "No, I know what sort of man I am now," and it, becomes very action oriented.
It is a little Empire.
So he comes out in a robe and pajamas, right? He's like, "All right, I'm the Doctor. I'm here now. I'm going to save the day." He's talking to the aliens. He's like, "Oh, a big threatening button that I'm not supposed to push," right? Calls their bluff, pushes it. Turns out they're using blood control, but they can only, like he says, you can only hypnotize someone so far because the survival instinct will take over. So they couldn't actually kill them with the blood control. They were just bluffing and taking them right up to the edge, right? So I like that aspect of it too. He just called their bluff and was like, "This is bullshit. You can't do that. You're not that powerful."
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice twist as well. Yeah.
So it turns out, they're controlling all the type A blood people in the world because they took this sample from the probe, but you can't convince someone to kill yourself that easily. So he releases everyone from the control. Then he's like, "I challenge you to combat, trial by combat, blah, blah, blah." And then we get a big sword fight, right? He gets his hand chopped off, and you might be surprised, but this hand becomes a big plot point later, 2 seasons from now, because he keeps the hand because it has Time Lord properties to it that he can use.
I like to hear that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it
eventually,
he recovers it.
Yeah, he recovers the hand. Eventually, in season 4, he almost regenerates, but ends up diverting his regeneration energy into this hand and creating a new copy of himself, which is the copy that goes and lives with Rose in the parallel dimension, and they live happily ever after.
Wow, incredible. So the hand is important, but for now, it falls off the spaceship.
So he's like, "Luckily, I'm still in my regeneration phase. I can do this." Regrows his hand.
Insane.
fights some more. He's like,
I like
defeats
this
him.
is a fighting hand.
Yeah.
I've generated a better fighting hand now. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't.
Happening.
This is truly where I'm like, oh, I know what I don't like about Doctor Who. It's corny. It's not that it's twee.
Yeah.
It's corny.
It has its it's very silly sometimes. It can be cheesy.
That's charm.
That's kind of what
to it.
Yeah, it has it's endearing to me at times. Like it definitely goes overboard at times where I'm rolling my eyes, like especially in some other Doctor eras where it gets a little too silly for me. But I still like the David Tennant era. I think he has a nice balance because he's got this hidden darkness to him that comes out sometimes. That's what I really like, is that this whole twee quirky facade is all to hide just how lonely and sad he is as like a person, which I think is good.
Yeah, and he's going to the point where he's going to murder this guy, and Rose has to be like, yo, chill out, Doctor, because we still don't know who he is, what kind of man he is, right?
Well, that's the thing.
We get the hint. And the best part of the second episode is when Donna says, you need someone to say no to you, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a running theme of Doctor Who. But I love this ending where he defeats the alien. He's like, all right, give up, pledge that you will leave Earth and never come back. And then he turns around. He's like, well, that was easy. They're walking back. The alien tries to come at him from behind. And they have this whole bit where he keeps finding fruit in the robe because of, Jackie's man friend likes to keep fruit in his robe. So he's like, a satsuma. Why is there a satsuma in my robe? Throws it at the button. As this guy's attacking, he falls off, dies. He's like, no second chances. That's what kind of man I am. And I thought that was like, I love that part too.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff where he's figuring out, like, when he's even confronting them with the blood plot, he's like, maybe I am the type of man that would just press this button. You don't know. I don't know either. This is crazy. I'm like, okay. You're a little unhinged, buddy. I like this.
Yeah.
That's good David Tennant acting. I'm here for that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And that's the Doctor in a nutshell. Like he is a little unhinged. You can never guess what he's going to do next. And like I said, he has this hidden darkness. He's murdered a lot of people in his time, like as a Time Lord. Like he has to kill people sometimes. Right. And he hates guns and he hates violence. He's very against that kind of thing. He would much rather use words to work things out. But when he has to, he will go dark and he will fucking fuck you up.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of my, as not seeing the show, really my introduction to the David Tennant Doctor. And I was like, okay, there's some layers to this guy. I kind of dig it. And there was like, you have a Star Trek space trial and then a Star Wars sword fight. Like there's a little bit of that DNA happening here.
Yeah.
Like a tribunal with aliens. So
I
I
like
was like,
that.
okay. Yeah.
But he's willing to let them go and be in peace and everything. He holds the sword to the guy's neck, but he's not going to kill him. But then as soon as he attacks from behind, he's like, no second chances. That's what kind of man I am.
And then he tells the rest of them, now get out of here and tell everybody that Earth is off limits and it's going to be fine. But then what happens?
Defended. Yeah, then we get this great scene. They go back to Earth. They're all like celebrating stuff. He's talking to Harriet Jones. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're leaving. It is defended. Harriet Jones, the prime minister, is like, she's calling Torchwood on the phone, which Torchwood is this secret organization that's basically like the X-Files or whatever. They kind of deal with alien threats. They're a secret government organization. And turns out they've been building this super weapon in secret just for this occasion in case anyone invades the Earth. And as this spaceship is flying away,
defeated, surrendered.
Yes. And she orders them to be fired on, destroys the ship, and murders all the aliens. And the Doctor is like, what the fuck? Yeah. He's like, look, I had to do it. It was a tough decision. And this is very War on Terror to me, because this is exactly what I feel like real America would have done in the 2000s or even now.
You don't get to leave.
Yeah. Like, you're our enemy. We're not letting you go. Like, because she says, like, oh, they'll just go tell other people, and you're not always here, Doctor. Like, we can't always rely on you. Two people died today because you were taking a nap, So she made the tough decision. He is very against it because, but
she made the tough decision.
Especially with space. Come on.
Well, but the Doctor uses the power of misogyny to be like, doesn't the prime minister look old? And basically gets her recalled by
Oh yeah, she looks tired or whatever. Yeah.
She look tired?
She's a woman.
Oh man. Yeah, he's dark.
But look,
that
you
was
don't cross
crazy
the Doctor.
Twist.
Yeah.
Yeah. No second chances, he says.
But really, I mean, the Doctor, he's not like a perfect character. Like, he has flaws. He's very full of himself because he's this all-powerful, immortal character. He has like a huge ego, and that's like gets him into trouble sometimes. And he's like, basically, the ending of David Tennant's arc is that he is like, wait, what? Because he's battling this idea of like, can I save everyone? Can I not save everyone? Like, he always wants to save people, but there's these fixed points in time where you can't save people. He goes to Pompeii in one episode and is like,
events,
I can't save everyone in Pompeii. Donna, who's with him at the time, convinces him to try to save people. He ends up causing Pompeii to happen because he's fighting. You know, he's either can kill this alien force that's going to destroy the world, and by doing that, let Pompeii, let the volcano happen.
Yeah.
So he realizes that like no matter what he does, people are going to die. But his end of his arc is like, you know what? I can control time. I'm better than time. I own time. Like, I make the rules. And he becomes the Doctor Victorious. Yeah. So it's a very interesting arc that he has.
Fascinating.
The Doctor Victorious.
Yeah. If you want to see more about that, watch this special called The Waters of Mars, which is a fantastic special.
Well, he's not
one of my favorite
Mars.
episodes.
We'll get into that next.
Yeah. But this is a classic.
All the specials are not holiday specials. There are just like specials. Okay.
Yeah. So after his third season, he did a year where he just did 4 specials in a year, and 2 of those were not Christmas specials. Yeah.
Huh.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so The Waters of Mars, which I would highly recommend, it's kind of a thing-like scenario where he goes to this Mars base. It's the first Mars base in the near future. Humans have colonized Mars. And eventually it ends up, he knows that these people have to die because it's like a canon event, but he tries to save them anyways. He saves the leader of this expedition. They go back to Earth, and she's like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, I was supposed to die. And she literally kills herself.
Wow.
And so like, that's one of the last things that David Tennant Doctor sees is like him trying to save people, and then she just killed herself anyways. Pretty crazy stuff. But so watch that episode, but we're not talking about that.
No, but so the Christmas invasion, that's pretty much where we're at. He regenerates, he saves the day, but the prime minister is, not on my watch, which, you go to space, there's going to be thousands of alien races. Who's going to say, Earth's defended? I'm a badass. Let me go,
Yeah.
It's dangerous. But
again, very, very War on Terror, very 2000s kind of politics.
Picks his
kind
clothes.
of a political commentary. Yeah.
And then he picks his clothes and has Christmas dinner.
We get a nice montage. He's picking his clothes out, having a nice dinner with the Tyler family. And then they go outside. They're like, it's snowing. And this is another like quirky but dark thing where it's like, oh, it's not snow. That's the ship breaking up in the atmosphere that they destroyed. That's ash, not snow.
Oh, no. That's crazy.
You're like, oh, damn, not so nice, I guess.
It's a mass cremation in the sky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And I feel like that kind of describes Doctor Who, or at least New Who, in a nutshell. It's like quirky. Again, it's a quirky facade hiding a lot darker things.
Interesting. Okay, now that you pitch it to me like that, I'm like, okay, that's going to help me frame the way I think of the next episode a little bit more, I think. Because this next one felt very quirky. So
yes.
Now
this one's not my favorite. Yeah.
But it's, it's the next Tenet special, and that's what we promised to do, and damn it, we did it. So I think now we'll jump on over to The Invasion Has Been Stopped, and now we'll talk The Runaway Bride right after this.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we are talking the hit Julia Roberts film, The Runaway Bride. Actually.
That's
wrong.
Nice pull.
We're talking the Doctor Who holiday special, the second one, The Runaway Bride, starring David Tennant, and introducing Donna, as you said, who's Catherine Tate. Is that our actress here?
That's right. Catherine Tate. American audiences may know her from The Office, where she was on the later...
the UK
couple
Office,
of the later
of
seasons.
course. What's that?
No, she was on the American Office. Past when it was good, really. Past the Michael Scott seasons.
Right.
But you might remember her from that. Just kind of a loud British lady. But before this, she was known. She had her own comedy show. It was called The Catherine Tate Show, I believe. It was sort of a variety type of show. So she was a very well-known...
Tracy Ullman vibes. Yeah, I could see that.
So she's a well-known British comedian before coming on the show. So she kind of already was known.
Right.
And again, this episode takes place after season 2. There's a big dramatic finale. Rose Tyler gets trapped in this alternate dimension. the doctor's very sad about it, which is kind of the main theme of this episode, is that he's just like, I miss Rose. I miss Rose. Every time he sees a woman with a blonde hair, she's like, that reminds me of Rose.
Yeah, and that's like, I wish I had more context for that, because like I understood like she's either in another dimension or something, because he says she's not dead, but I was like, you could tell he's really bummed out about it. And like that's one of the themes, of this.
Yes. Well, him and Rose had this great bond that really defined the first 2 seasons of Doctor Who.
Right.
And even to this day, like Rose is one of the most popular companion characters because she was so like she just really defined that era of Who for so many people. And this is, Billie Piper. She was a musical artist before jumping into acting. Did Doctor Who, then she was like, I want to leave and do other things. Did the show called Secret Diary of a Call Girl, which was very like different.
I've seen that, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've also seen Penny Dreadful, of course, but I don't know. She's like a Lily Allen contemporary, you're saying?
She was like a pop star, a British pop star before jumping to acting.
Should we say real quick, Jacob, is it worth mentioning? I don't know what the specific term of what she is here, but obviously the Brits are so interested in the class differences too. Rose kind of portrays, what do you call, like a chuv, a chav?
Cockney, yeah. She has a Cockney accent, very strong Cockney accent, which is associated with the lower, like the working class. England, they have many, many different accents or varieties of their accents. They have received pronunciation, which is like what posh the Queen speaks, right? RP, it's called.
Obviously, the Doctor is a little more posh.
Yes, but the Doctor, he speaks in an estuary English accent, which is kind of the middle ground between RP and like a lower class accent.
Learning
There's a whole history of accents and stuff. Which, by the way, David Tennant, a Scottish man. Yes, if you ever see him in interviews or anything, his natural accent is a Scottish accent, so he's doing an accent in this role.
And I pop up Christopher Eccleston as well, correct? I mean, aren't they both?
He's from the northern England, so he has a northern accent, kind of like a Sean Bean type of accent.
Sean Bean.
Yeah. There's a lot of minor differences between these accents, but basically
it is interesting though, for being an island that's not huge in area, just the variety of dialects and
right.
Really, that the Scottish is incomprehensible, and he's instead I'm Doctor Who. And he's I mean, that's wild.
It's very much like a British person doing an American accent or something. Like it's
Hey,
very.
how are you? Yeah.
I'll use
Colin,
my
you're
credit
saying
card.
like he's in that DuckTales, the DuckTales remake kind of.
He's Scrooge. He's very
Scrooge
Scottish
McDuck.
in it. Yes, he's very Scottish in the show. It's great.
That's
By the way, David
Tennant,
Tennant, born David MacDonald, is his real name.
MacDonald.
When he joined the British Actors Union, there was already a David MacDonald, so he had to change his name. That's why he goes by David Tennant. That's not his real name.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. That is a fun
not his
fact.
birth name. So when you join an actors union like that, sometimes you have to change your name. And he was a young actor at the time. He kind of just was looking in a music magazine and picked out. There's this group called the Pet Shop Boys, a British music group, and one of the members is called Neil Tennant. So we just took that last name and said, "I'm David Tennant."
His middle name?
No,
Wow.
it's a completely different name.
Just from a band, the Pet Shop Boys. That's a very fun fact. Okay.
That happens sometimes. Like Emma Stone, her real name is Emily Stone. She changed it when she joined the Union in America because there was already an Emily Stone. A lot of people don't know that either. Just
right.
Weird facts.
Sorry, Sean. We already have a Connery. I guess I'll go with Bean. Okay, cool. That's very funny.
Yeah. So
the class divide, even in the languages, is kind of where we're at.
And there's a class divide here because we're introduced to Donna. We'll talk about that in a second. But even her character, with her so much being like, I was working in this office that was a little lower class, but then I ended up going to this posh one, and this HR rep, he didn't have to bring, because I'm at this level of employment, and he's at this, he didn't have to be kind to someone like me. Like, you see it in all UK stuff. It's so weird.
Absolutely. And with the Rose Tyler stuff, class was a big part of that too, because she lived in a council estate, which is like a kind of like the projects, basically.
What's that movie we watched one time, Jacob? Fish Tank? Is that what it is?
Fish Tank,
very much about those type
Andrea
of
Arnold
people.
directed.
That's a good movie. Yeah.
Interesting. So a prevalent theme in British media is this kind of class.
Class is a big. I mean, they have their whole history with class where
Yeah.
you know, there's posh people and there's working class people. They don't always get along.
There's a
Blah,
royal
blah, blah.
family.
Levens.
Jeez.
Yeah. But yeah, so Donna is like a working class person. She's temping, like she just needs a job, so she's temping at an office. She's not special or unique in any way. She's just a very normal person, right? That's kind of how we meet her as. But essentially what happens is, like I said, there's this big season finale. He says goodbye to Rose for the last time, gets in his TARDIS, zooms off. He's kind of sulking in the TARDIS. Literally minutes later, because this is a cliffhanger in season 2 in the last episode that continues into this. She appears out of nowhere, this bride, and he's like, "What? How did you get in the TARDIS?"
Yeah, she's literally walking the aisle on her wedding day to marry her groom-to-be, who she met at that job, and disappears literally and appears on the TARDIS. So like she's in her wedding dress and everything, and nobody knows what's going on. And she's very short with the Doctor. You know, where am I? You tell me what. It's like, it's very fun.
Yes.
And he's grieving.
I'm learning so much here, the curse words that she's calling him and the things that she's saying. I'm like, wow, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's confused because, you know, for someone to just appear in the TARDIS is very strange.
Transwarp beaming shouldn't be possible. Yeah.
Yes.
Scotty hasn't figured out the formula.
So, yeah, let's see what happens. They go to Earth.
Well, he's just kind enough to be like, oh shit, well, all right, I'm in the middle of
I'll
something,
take
but
you
if you
back.
got to go to Earth, I'll do it. Like, he's very accommodating, I feel, in this episode. Like,
yeah.
And
she's being very short with him, which is understandable because she was just about to get married. She's got a lot of emotions and stuff. And like I said, Donna is a character that I didn't like at first. When I first saw this episode way back in the day,
I was very frustrated with this first scene. I'm like, this is a whole episode of this, but it got better. Yeah.
But the thing is, like, her character does grow on you a lot, and especially not even just this episode, but when she comes back for her regular season appearances, like, she gets a lot better, and the stuff they do with her family later on is very good too. The family's not so good either because they're just kind of like, yeah.
But I was just sold so much by the ending. Like her literally saying like, no, I don't need to do this. Like I've got my own life. I was like, you know what? Donna's cool.
And that's very much her character in season 4 when she becomes the companion. She's there to like stop the Doctor when he goes too far. And like her first adventure with him, he's about to do some like sus shit. And she's like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Like, this doesn't seem right. And so she's not afraid to like call out the Doctor when she thinks he's wrong. So I really like that about her too.
It's like the voice of reason when there's unlimited power on the table, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again,
like
his first 2 companions were these young 20-something girls that like, you know, were kind of idolized him and would never kind of call him out on his shit.
Whatever you want, the Doctor.
Yeah. Whereas Donna is not afraid to call him out. So I like that about her.
Yep.
So he's like, yeah, I'll take you back to your wedding. Sure.
But his mind is inquisitive. It's very much, who does your boss work for? What do you do?
Yeah.
He's asking these questions to really pinpoint, why did this happen exactly?
Yeah. Because he knows it's got to be some kind of, something's weird's going on. People don't just show up in the TARDIS for no reason. They go down to Earth. They're like, we need to get to Chiswick. We're going to Chiswick. Where she lives and where the wedding is and everything. And they get in a cab. She's like, do you have money? He's like, no, I don't have money. I never have money.
If you have
like,
money
why
in
don't you have money?
pockets, we get a pocket.
I don't have bloody pockets. I'm wearing a wedding dress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Eventually
so
we see
out of
these
the taxi.
Yeah. We see the return of these pilot fish, right? These robot scavengers dressed as Santa Clauses.
As they were in the previous one, we should mention they had the same Santa outfits and little masks. So
that's a callback to the first one. And the spinning Christmas tree, which we didn't talk about too much, but that's a fun little thing.
Remote controlled. We have another remote controlled Christmas threat later in this.
Yeah,
well, it is
this
a
one
tree,
we
but they have a different mechanism.
Ornament bombs, right?
Yes, the ornaments, not the tree that spins into a saw. But yeah, they come back. They're trying to chase her. She's like, screw you, Doctor Who, I'm going to my wedding. And like, she just gets in a cab and dips basically, but little does she know the driver is one of these robots.
Yes.
So the Doctor has to pursue.
So he has to chase her in the TARDIS. There's a big chase on the highway where she has to jump from the taxi to the TARDIS.
To open the door and jump.
Yeah.
Trust me. And she uses the screwdriver.
Again, he's referencing this friend that he lost throughout, where he's like, that belongs to my friend. I lost her. But he doesn't say, he doesn't say whether she's alive or dead yet. But then when Donna's like, well, did your friend trust you? And he's like, yeah, but she's alive, so you can trust me. And then she jumps, and then so
the seeds of that stuff I liked when it's like, because I'm like, damn, that you could tell that's like it's a touchy subject for the Doctor. And I'm like, okay, there's something that I don't know enough of this Rose character. But it's clearly like, really important.
Absolutely.
So hinting at that darkness, like you said.
So they end up on the roof of this building. They're like, he's like, the TARDIS needs a little time to recharge. It's not used to like flying like that much. Mm-hmm. So they have this nice bonding moment where they're kind of getting to know each other a little better. And the Doctor is starting to like Donna, like as a person, right? He's starting to like get to know her, and just kind of they're becoming friends. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One thing that I feel like when I was watching this, specifically the highway stuff, and like he's using his little screwdriver to unlock doors, I'm like, this is giving Harry Potter. Like it's very similar. It's like Newt Scamander is very much just a Doctor Who doctor. Like there's
absolutely
the real world, the Muggle world. Normal people don't know what the fuck's going on. They have no idea that aliens are here.
He made the choice, Mike. Do I want to be Doctor Who or do I want to be Newt Scamander? I bet
Eddie Redmayne could have been a doctor for sure.
Easily.
The
and the way the wand works, it's
I'll
not
mention
a wand,
what the sonic screwdriver is. That's another thing that dates back to the 60s, where they're like, he has this tool. The thing about the Doctor, he hates guns. He never carries weapons. He has this tool called the sonic screwdriver. It can't hurt people. It can't kill people. But what it can do is it mainly opens locks, manipulates digital things. Like it has a whole range of uses, but it's just it can't be used as a weapon, basically.
When they go to this bar for the reception of the wedding, which is what they've tracked down to get to Donna's reception, and they open a flip phone and he puts the sonic screwdriver to it, Jacob, I was like, flip phones, of course. I could not believe it.
He's trying to download all the info or whatever, but
that's kind of where it borders on, like, it's sometimes more science fantasy than or what would you call it? Science fantasy rather than science fiction, where it's like,
correct.
You kind of explain, you can hand wave away all the technology. Like, the sonic screwdriver can do whatever the writers need it to do for that.
Like the locks in that cab were probably not electronic. They were simply mechanical locks. And he just, it's telekinesis is.
It can, but it can manipulate mechanical locks. The one thing it can't do, and this is a rule that they stick to, it doesn't do wood. So if there's a wood door that's locked, he can't open it. But if it's metal or anything else, he can.
Wow, that's incredible.
Get me out of here!
So Christmas Town is safe.
The wood box.
Yeah, he can't open that door.
Yeah.
Surround him with wood. Oh, wow. That's aggressive. But that was giving big Harry Potter, like Hagrid's motorbike flying through Muggle Town, with the TARDIS and the freeway.
Yes, I see that 100%.
And again, there's a lot of crossover between, the British acting scene is pretty incestuous. So every British actor has either done Harry Potter or Doctor Who.
Well, they literally call it the British pension scheme. It's for theater actors to get retirement money. Is basically like, you were the greatest Macbeth of your day, and now you'll be a guy who goes, I'm a vampire in the 16th century.
Right.
Oh my god.
And even David Tennant, of course, was in Harry Potter. He played Barty Crouch Jr. Yeah.
Yes, he's so good.
Oh, yeah, he is good in that role.
There's also a lot of Doctor Who actors have done Marvel, strangely enough, in their times. Of course, Karen Gillan, many others. But
Morbius, we talked about it a little
montage.
bit on the Watcha. Yeah. Not quite Marvel, but yeah.
Yeah, but like a lot of the main Doctors and companions have been on at some point. And Christopher Eccleston was in Thor. Anyways, it's not that important.
Yeah, but the webs we weave. Speaking of webs,
Yes. But I will say my exposure to Christopher Eccleston was 28 Days Later, where I saw him in that movie and I was like, oh, cool. I don't know who that is. And then when he was cast as the villain of Thor, people said, that's Doctor Who, right? No. And I was like, that show is still on? And that's definitely the first time I heard of this remake. So
yes, and that was it was coming back. And 28 Days Later was before Doctor Who, so that's interesting. Yeah.
Right.
So they go back to their wedding.
Go to the wedding. She's pissed. She sees her husband.
Well, they're having a reception without her.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's like, wait a minute.
Yes, her husband Lance, or her fiance.
Yep.
And the doctor's still trying to get to the bottom of like what's going on, what is special about this Donna lady. So you find out she works at this company called H.C. Clements. Through some digging on the internet, he finds that H.C. Clements is a subsidiary of Torchwood, which again, if you saw the season 2 finale, Torchwood was a big part of it, where they're like this secret organization that was doing all this alien technology stuff behind the scenes. Basically any alien. Yeah.
But that's airing by now. Spin-off
What's
show.
that?
Torchwood has been on?
The spin-off show is airing or not yet?
Torchwood would start airing. I believe the first season was season 2. Yeah. So
okay.
But actually season 3, because Torchwood first comes on as it's something in Doctor Who. So in the season 2 finale, it's a big part of that, where basically any alien technology that ends up on Earth, they kind of take it apart, try to figure out how it works and that kind of thing. So they're coming up with different technology and stuff. Eventually it gets its own spinoff where Captain Jack Harkness, which is a character in season 1, played by John Barrowman, he's the lead of that show, and that's a lot of fun. Again, that's like the more adult spin-off of Doctor Who, where they have sex and say curse words and stuff.
Yeah.
Probably on BBC 2 then, where you could show nudity, which is very interesting.
They would literally drop F-bombs. Like they would just say fuck uncensored. I'm like, I don't know how they do that, but
the government pays for it. I don't understand it either. I don't know.
Yep.
I do want to shout out Russell T. Davis, the showrunner, a gay man who put a lot of LGBT representation into Doctor Who in this era. And this character, Captain Jack Harkness, who was a very popular character in season 1, he was another time traveler that the Doctor would meet and stuff, was an openly bisexual character on TV in the 2000s, which doesn't seem like a big deal now, but it kind of was at the time.
Mid-2000s, pre-10. That's a different time.
It's wild.
So it was a very sort of forward show at the time where they were not afraid to shy away from that stuff. So I like that. Shout that out.
Even with Loki, people are still like, whoa, he's bisexual Loki. It's like, chill out. So to do that, almost 20 years ahead, it's like, wow.
So if you read real Norse mythology, he like fucks a horse.
Yeah.
It's like, relax.
This is pretty tame. But that is very ahead of its time, Jacob. That's good to point out. I like that.
Yeah, and even like Rose, her boyfriend is black. They had an interracial relationship and everything, so they weren't afraid to shy away from what dumb people call woke now, right? So
things that exist in real life. Yeah,
Dr.
Woke, dude.
Dr. Woke. That's what I call this show.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So let's see, where was I?
So we figured out something. So they go to the wedding reception,
right? Yeah. So I'm trying to think. So he puts this dampener on her. He sees a blonde woman. He's like, oh, I remember my blonde friend.
Breakdown.
Yeah. And then he realizes that they're still coming after Donna. So he's like, we got to get out of here now. The ornaments start going off, the ornament bombs, right? And him and Donna and Lance go to H.C. Clements. They're like, we got to figure out what's going on. There's a secret basement, right? So they go down to this secret floor.
Sorry, real quick. There's a scene where he's literally just walking through the computer terminals where she works. He's just pointing his screwdriver at the computer as he goes. He's just kind of like asking questions. He's like, so like, what do you guys do here again? And he's like getting information just by going like zap, 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 zap.
Yeah, that is very goofy. I like it. That's the Harry Potter. The more I get to see the screwdriver, I'm like, okay.
They love to use the sonic screwdriver in Doctor Who. And again, it can just fill any role. And each Doctor, gets their own TARDIS interior every generation because it kind of regenerates with the Doctor because it usually gets destroyed or whatever. So it gets redesigned a lot. And then they get their own sonic screwdrivers. So they get a redesign of that.
What is David Tennant's interior? It's just kind of like industrial, right?
Yeah, his interior is not my favorite. Like there's later Doctors that have much nicer interiors. His is kind of like old and falling apart and kind of looks like shit.
It's like exposed open cell foam duct taped to a railing.
Yeah,
it's like pretty rough.
Interesting.
But that was kind of his vibe.
I'm doing okay. I'm holding it all together. You're like,
that's
okay.
True.
But when he regenerates into Matt Smith, like the inside of the TARDIS literally just like explodes because it's a very violent process where he's shooting like fire out of his limbs and stuff.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, so Matt Smith's
Computers
first
got
episode,
better.
it crashes into the earth, and he's like, okay, I need to leave it alone and let it regenerate inside the TARDIS for a while, and then he comes back later and it's a new interior. So
She's
that's
like a
right.
mahogany apartment. It's like a wood cabin. He's like, oh, great.
Yeah. You can't do
Yeah.
anything with your screwdriver in there, but it's nice. Yeah. That's cool
but
though. I didn't
the
know. Sounds
Runaway
like it's getting a
Bride,
different bridge in Star Trek, essentially. But
yeah.
so David Tennant has the
exactly.
Enterprise bridge. It's just industrial and shitty.
Right. That's why I compare it so much to Star Trek, because it's like the different, Star Trek just had different shows with different crews and stuff, whereas Doctor Who, it's one long running show, but essentially every era is its own show because it's a new Doctor, it's a new everything kind of. And
New
they take on
interior of
their
the
own,
TARDIS. Yeah. It's
yeah.
cool.
So it takes
Okay.
on the personality and the vibes of that Doctor.
Right. But to go Runaway Briding though, we
Yes.
the secret basement. They're manufacturing these particles that
Well,
David Tennant's figured out, right?
Mike, I hate to backtrack again, but he
No, go for
does
it.
point out that there is a button in the elevator labeled secret floor, whatever, and he says like, and if that button's there, then surely there is one in there. Both go, oh yeah, you're right, and they do get in the elevator.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is, yeah. If there's a button to press, he's going to press it. We learned that in this Christmas Invasion.
That's
Yeah.
right.
That's right. So they're seeing all this stuff, and he's like, man, they're doing all this advanced technology that I didn't even know that they were doing, these humans. And then we meet our antagonist finally, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Spider
voice.
Queen. Yeah.
Yeah. Which this is incredible. There's a spider spaceship being foreshadowed every once in a while, and it's like, okay.
Yes.
There's a system of web up in space, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
what's
web-shaped,
that?
it's a star-shaped web spaceship.
Mhm.
But she finally, beams down eventually, and we meet now I forget. Oh, what is this? The Rachnos, the Empress of the Rachnos,
Yes, the
which is
Rachnos.
I like this makeup actually. It's a little, again, low budget looking
Little
maybe,
stagey.
but
Little stagey.
yeah,
But
The
it kind
makeup
of looks like
is
a Power
fine.
Rangers villain from the 90s or something.
She certainly does. The issue I
Yeah.
have is Russell T Davis's note to her was obviously never stop moving. Move as
Yes.
much as you can.
Because
Yeah,
the way
yeah.
that they shoot it, like she's in this like rig, so she can't move her feet. She can just move her upper body because she's attached to this spider thing, right?
She's, a
She's
centaur
like-
but
she
a
has-
spider.
Spider Parkinson's. She is
Yeah.
incapable of holding her body still.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also like that she understands human humor and references, and she's just like making jokes the whole
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
She studied
funny.
her opponent. She studied, I want to know everything about them, their culture.
He basically calls Donna a cuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh, man.
of course the big twist. So we see this Spider-Man, Spider-Woman.
Mhm.
Lance, the fiance, kind of runs off. You think, oh, is he being a coward? Is he running away? Then we
Yeah.
see he's grabbed this like fire axe. He's gonna attack. He's gonna sneak up on this spider and get it with the axe, right?
Mhm.
And so Donna's like talking to her, distracting her, and everything. And then finally he goes to do it, and he's like, "Psych! I was working with her the whole time."
I love her.
Yep. So
And that's
Lance.
the twist. And that's what's sad about Donna, is that she was tricked by this guy who never loved her, and was dosing her with these particles for 6 months, right?
Now,
That's what
let's
the tea
say
was, or the coffee. Yeah.
Rick, yes, but we do see the flashbacks when she's explaining her courting relationship to David Tennant, where she's basically chasing this man.
Yeah. She's like, yeah, he wouldn't take no for an answer. He asked me to marry her. And then we see in the flashbacks, she asked him to marry her, and she's like, yeah, chasing him, trying to get her to marry him.
Right.
And he has to go along with it because he's been working with this Rachnos lady the whole time. They need to dose Donna with these Huon particles because she's going to be the key that unlocks her spider children that are in the center of the earth.
Mm-hmm. Which that's what we have in the Hollow Earth. A bunch of spider babies that have just been waiting.
I believe
right.
that's the plot of the next King Kong, Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
I do like
there's
the
Godzilla.
joke where the doctor's like, what's down there? What's down there? Donna's like, I don't know, dinosaurs? He's like,
Dinosaurs?
dinosaurs? What are you talking about?
It's like, I think there are. He's like, no.
Yeah, I like
Um,
that. Journey to the Center of the Earth.
So, yeah, that's kind of the turn where we find out Lance is a bad guy, and he's like, God, you're thick, woman. Like, you didn't never suspected that, I didn't really care about you, blah, blah, blah.
Every
could you
night
not
it's David
suspect?
Beckham this, quiz show that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's very British in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
Is
wow.
Posh Spice pregnant? Text messages, new flavors of Pringles. That's all you care about. And he's kind of, he's being like, basically, you're like a basic bitch, right? You're a normie.
Right.
Um,
And even
We
the
hate
doctor
that
even
word
says like you're not special. Like he's scanning her when they first meet. Like there's nothing special about you. You're completely boring. Why would they be after you? I don't understand. Like
yeah.
So this kind of her
Which is
being
really funny.
unexceptional is kind of a beat, but he's really
it's-
putting her down here.
Yeah, it's a lot of foreshadowing to her season where she literally becomes the most important woman in the universe in her arc. So
Love it.
Humble beginnings. Yeah, that's great.
I'll just tell you basically her arc with the Doctor ends with her for reasons where basically she will die unless the Doctor wipes her memory of all things related to him. So she has the saddest ending of all the companions where she has to go back to her normal life. And either, if he doesn't do this, she will die. And if she remembers the Doctor ever, she will die. So he wipes her memory of all the great adventures they had and everything. So it's very sad. But again, it gets resolved 15 years later.
Yeah, Data comes back, eventually. Like,
Yeah.
We've had sad partings in Star Trek as well. But no, yeah. So this is, her arc is starting to happen now, like more rapidly at the end of this episode, and this is when I'm starting to warm up to that character as well. Especially once Lance turned on, I'm like, you're an asshole, dude.
Right.
How could you not expect I was betraying you for the spider goddess? Like no one would suspect that one. Like what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, he's being so mean. And the Doctor's like, I'm sorry, like, because he realizes it before she does what's going on. He's just like, I'm sorry.
And the Spider Queen and Lance did have a conversation like, okay, and then I'm going to pretend that I'm going to attack you, and it's going to be so good. Like, it's like they planned this.
Again,
moment.
she's like doing pranks and stuff.
She loves it.
It very quickly becomes, now feed him the tea. And you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, wait a minute. That's right.
Yeah. But basically, they escape because Donna can be drawn to the TARDIS. The TARDIS in reverse can be drawn to Donna. So they escape by getting the TARDIS appearing around them. And he's like, okay, we're going back to the beginning of the universe because this is also a time machine, of course. It's not just a spaceship. I can travel through time as well. So they go back to the beginning of the universe, the Big Bang and the creation of the Earth, where we have these particles floating around in space. And we see, the Rachnos nest or whatever is the literal center of the Earth, and all these
I'm
rocks
going
are
to
forming around
leave
it.
my spider eggs right here in this very safe space. Oh, there's a planet that formed around them.
Yeah.
Every time I have kids.
What's a great hiding spot,
Yeah. But I wonder what creation myth is based on the spider sack at the center of the Earth.
That's my religion, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here for it. That's going to be the new Sony spider movies.
So then they go back to the present. Trying to remember what happens next. Well, first the Empress is like, well, Donna's gone. I guess we need to use Lance as the key instead. And Lance is like, wait a minute.
What?
Yep. Classic, it's Benny,
Right.
You can't team up
He's
with
the
this
Benny
villain
of
like
this
that.
episode.
He's the Benny, yeah.
Yeah, first of all, why would you team up with an evil spider alien lady?
And sorry to say, because he does say it, and it is an interesting, I guess, dichotomy to what the Doctor, he says, like, don't you understand? She can offer me the stars. She can offer me everything up there. There's so much more than this world.
I want to see what's out there. Yeah.
And Jacob, when we get that moment of let's go to the creation universe, and they open the TARDIS doors, and she looks at it and she says, I mean, it is so big. Lance was right. I mean, there is so much to the universe. It is dust or whatever they're going to call back to say later. That is a cool moment where you're like,
well, yeah. And it's literally the hook that the Doctor uses when having a new companion. He's like, I'll show you the stars. I'll show you everything that's out there. Which is what all Lance wanted. So Lance could have been a companion for the Doctor, but instead he aligned himself with this.
But the luck and odds.
Right.
That the alien who comes to your planet is a handsome British person. No, it would probably be like a spider queen who's like, come into the TARDIS with me. And you'd be like, okay. We'd like sit down and be like, yes, I'm your companion. No, that's what it would be.
Right. Yeah, but you'd have to really challenge your your biases to not trust spider people because, you know, we have no reason to not trust. This one in particular is evil, but yeah, it would probably be some crazy
He's moving
creature.
so much, Mike. I'd be like, just sit down.
You have to adjust to it over time. Yeah. It would not be David Tennant. But how did she contact him? She sent him an email. Hey, Lance, Spider Queen here. Like, I'm fascinated by this recording.
Messages.
Yeah.
I do like because he's the head of human resources, right? He's the head of HR, which they make a joke about. He's like, oh, he's literally the head of human resources, and then Lance says, this time or what does he say? It's like it's personnel instead of it's personal.
This time it's personnel.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
But again, yeah, she of course turns on Lance and puts him up in her web, along with Donna, because they do catch her. And what?
I'm trying to remember the finale. I just know eventually we get Spider Baby genocide, but that's later.
Well, she drops Lance down into this tunnel that goes to the center of the earth. Bye, Lance.
Yep.
And then the Spider Babies are coming, and this is where the doctor like goes full genocide and is like, all right, I fucking warned you. Because basically he's like, look, I'll give you one chance to leave. I'll find you another planet right now. If you leave the Earth in peace, you can go live there with your children and everything. And the Empress is like, why would I do that? Like, who are you? You're just some rando. And then he's like, guess what? I'm from this place. You might have heard of it. It's called Gallifrey. And then she's like, what? You're a fucking Time Lord? Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I did not know that. Please do not kill me.
And then he's like,
it's too late.
Not how it works.
Because there is that running joke where Donna keeps being like, I'm not listening to some Martian. I'm running around with a Martian. He's like, I'm not from Mars. And so then, the Spider Queen says, my babies will feast on Martian flesh. And he's like, I'm not from Mars. And that's when it's like, I'm from
Gallifrey. And then she's like, she has this reaction to it because the Time Lords killed the Rachnosses in the past. So she knows who the Time Lords are. Their reputation precedes them and everything. And then he's like, guess what? I'm going to kill all your babies. I'm going to drown them by draining the Thames. And this is where Donna has to be like, all right, enough. Like, you're going too far. Like, let's get out of here now. And she says, like, I think you need someone to stop you sometimes, which is really cool stuff.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking now that the 48 hours of the Daleks and the Cybermen followed by Spider Queen, what a couple of days for you, David.
Well, he's just essentially going from crisis to crisis. Like, he never gets a break. Like, he's just always traveling, and then always something wrong is happening. He has to save the day. So
that's Jack Bauer.
Kind of an exhausting life.
Exactly.
Yeah. And again, he's as an immortal, Time Lord, he meets these people, has a nice relationship with them. They eventually leave or die, or their memory gets erased, and he has to keep on going and form new relationships. And that's like his cycle of living, where he's just this wanderer, right? Going from place to place, meeting new people. Eventually they always leave and he remains. So it's kind of a sad life.
It's like the vampire problem. Like, you live forever, but everybody you ever cared about will eventually die, and you're just chilling. You'll given enough time, you'll just be fucking depressed and lonely. Like, you can only entertain yourself for so long,
And that's the core of the Doctor as a character. So that and he's this is something also that I like about the Matt Smith Doctor, which I'm starting to watch a little bit. But basically, he's an old man in a young man's body, and so you have to balance that because he's like 900 years old. So he's seen a lot of shit, but he's also got this young exterior, so he hides it with his quirkiness and everything, but inside he's dark and depressed.
A little Jetsia. Not exactly the same, but
the
life from that.
This episode significantly less Christmassy than the first one. That's kind of what I did not like about it either. I liked this one better, I think, but overall I was like, where's the holiday stuff? So
and a lot of these Christmas specials, they don't have that much to do with Christmas sometimes. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like
we get the costumes of Santa robots, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
The first one ends with them opening presents. They're like, it is Christmas. I'm like, okay.
Christmas dinner, presents, family together. Yeah.
Put those little British hats on. I'm like, oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Doing the crackers and everything. This one ends similarly, where he takes Donna back to her home.
Right.
They have a little scene outside, and she's like, "Come on, have dinner with us." And he's like, "I don't do that sort of thing." She's like, "Well, you said you did it with your previous friend, like." But that was like a special occasion, because that's kind of the other thing about the Doctor is he doesn't do families, he doesn't do family dinners and stuff. Like he's he's a kind of solitary guy who likes to go from adventure to adventure. He doesn't like to be tied down, right?
Right.
He has no patience for like the mundane or the ordinary in life, to his detriment a lot of times. So he's like, yeah, okay, I'll just park the Tardis then, and I'll be right back. And he goes in the Tardis and he's about to leave, basically, because he's like doing the Irish goodbye, where he's just like, no, I don't do family dinners, I'm out of here. But then Donna's like, Doctor, he's like, it comes back, of course, and but basically, they have a nice scene where he's like, come with me, let me show you the stars and all that stuff. And she's like, no, I can't. Maybe another time though. And they leave it open for, obviously for her to return if she wants to.
Well, I like her answer of, well, no, one, I'm going to get another job, but two, I might not even do that. You're going to show me the stars or whatever. And yes, I've learned that there's a bigger world than that. But she's like, I'm going to go on vacation here. I'm going to travel and see this world. And you're like, good for you, Donna.
Yeah. And it's like your fiance had just betrayed you and is now dead, and your parents have been through some shit. So it's like she's like, I'm going to be here for my family. I'm going to be here for myself. And it's like,
got a life to live.
That.
Yeah. And I do like the moment where she's like,
she's not going to run away.
Talking about Lance, and she's like, he deserved it. And then the Doctor kind of looks at her and he's like, oh no, he didn't deserve it, but like, he was mean, but he didn't deserve to die. I like that she has kind of that realization. By the way, also about the Christmas invasion, that last scene where it's snowing, but it's really ash, right?
Yeah.
And the Doctor's like, well, the Rose is like, what's next for the Doctor, right? He's like, well, same old life. Let's go. And she's like, can I come too then? And he's like, yeah, of course. And then Mickey, her boyfriend, is like, you're never going to stay, are you? And so basically Mickey, his role in the show is just to get cucked by the Doctor a lot, which is very sad.
No, Mickey.
But and then the Doctor,
find someone who'll be there for you.
Yeah. But he's like, we'll go that way. And then he says, it'll be fantastic. And when he says that, that's a reference to the 9th Doctor, Christopher Eccleston, because that's something he would always say. He would always say fantastic like that. So that's another reference you guys probably didn't catch, but just wanted to mention that.
But it's a fun fact.
Yeah.
Christmas Invasion, Runaway Bride. Do we think this is a good time maybe to hop over final thoughts on both of these and how the whole Christmas experience of Doctor Who has been?
Let's do it.
Let's get our police box.
It'll be fantastic.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we are wrapping things up with the Time Lords, talking Doctor Who, talking to the Christmas specials, the first two, the David Tennant era of the reboot.
That's right.
You
guys are huge Doctor Who fans now. You're going to watch all of the show and you love
I'll
it.
say did not win me over, but here is what I did. I watched both these episodes yesterday and then did want some extra context this morning. And I sent you guys the American Dad picture because obviously I always try to relate to whatever thing we're watching to whatever American Dad reference I can. Now, Jacob, you name one of the items in the picture. I got to say, I already knew it because well, let's talk real quick.
Yes, please.
When these specials end, every time these specials end, they do what I think is the coolest thing in Doctor Who, where they're like, here's some fucking Doctor Who you're going to get. They're like, here it is. They give you like season. the preview, they give you everything. And I guess individual episodes too are like, here's what happens on the next one.
Yeah.
But in that wrap for the first one, Jacob, introduced to a character real quick named K9, who I saw in that little wrap up, and I was like, K9. Who is this little bitty? I love him so much immediately. I'm going to look him up. I got on my little internet and I said, oh, he's in an episode pretty quick in season 1 or whatever. I'll jump back. I'll do that one.
Oh, you watched that one with
and
Anthony Head.
The plot of that episode.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Buffy guy, right?
Yeah, Buffy guy is the principal.
That's who it was. I fucking knew that's who it was.
And that's where they introduced Sarah Jane Smith, who was a companion to the 4th and 5th Doctors back in the 70s. who gets her own spinoff called The Sarah Jane Adventures, which is a more kid-related kind of spinoff. So you have the mature spinoffs.
Oh,
wow. They're creating a whole universe.
Yeah. Sarah Jane Smith.
That I didn't know. But
they just need a BBC Plus. Yeah.
It's streaming now.
They were ahead of their time.
It's on Max.
The reason I bring it up, because I think it's important for you to know, Mike, if you didn't watch this as well.
Yeah, please.
And Jacob, I'm sure, I think that's probably one of the better episodes. I mean, I was very impressed by that episode or whatever. I don't know how you feel on the run.
Okay.
But what it did to me, unfortunately, as I'm sitting there going like, oh, look at this adorable robot dog they're resurrecting. You get that entire story where I'm realizing where they're saying like, well, you know, like she was the companion of the third Doctor and she's heartbroken and she was left here by this asshole and he disappeared and went on to these other adventures. And she says and confronts him at one point, Mike, she's like, you show us the universe. You show us everything. And then you drop us off here and shut the door and say goodbye. And you expect us to continue on our lives? What am I supposed to do? Who was I supposed to become? And in that moment, I'm like, I hate Doctor Who because I hate the Doctor. This guy,
he's a flawed character. Yeah.
But it's the vampire problem Mike said, but he literally calls out. He says to her, his response is like, you understand why I had to leave you. You'll grow old. Yeah. I won't. I'm immortal. Don't you understand? When your life ends, mine continues. And it's like, then great, dude. Stop involving your life with these people then. Go be alone somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. It's a selfish motivation. You're choosing to come to Earth and be like, come with me.
He's like a very lonely person. Like he likes having these companions, how brief of a time. But that does make Rose start to kind of second guess herself.
Yeah, when they've outlived their usefulness, he just ditches them.
Shit. Yeah, Rose in that episode, Mike, is immediately like, you've done this to other women? And he's like, I do it to a lot of women all the time. And they're like, oh my God.
Doctor, who do you think you are?
Which is all funny because it's all born out of the way that the show is structured, right? Because of course they have to write off the companions when the actors leave.
Not teen girl with a 90-year-old man who's like, I'm changing. You have to leave too. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
I like that they address the structure of the show narratively in that way.
Like the regeneration was born out of necessity. The same, like companions can't just regenerate, so they have to write them off somehow. Sometimes they die, sometimes they go back to their life. Different things happen to them.
Then I googled it. That woman died shortly after that episode.
Yes, Elizabeth Sladen. Well, not after that episode, but she went on to do 4 seasons of the Sarah Jane Adventures, which is her spinoff that K9 was on. So her and K9.
Oh well, now I know what I'm watching.
It's very I've seen a few episodes. It's very kid oriented.
That might be fine for me.
But essentially, she's an investigative journalist who's like basically there's like alien threats on Earth that the Doctor is doing other stuff, so she has to investigate what's going on. And she has like these kid friends, like this neighbor girl moves in and discovers aliens and stuff. So she kind of teams up with them and stuff.
And this is my robot dog.
Yeah. But they did 4 seasons of Sarah Jane Adventures, and then unfortunately she did pass away from cancer. She was only in, I think, her 50s or 60s, so she wasn't even that old, Elizabeth Sladen, but she was a favorite companion from the 70s.
And that guy is still alive, you said, the third one? Or no?
The third one, no. John Pertwee, no. Tom Baker, the 4th Doctor, is alive, and every Doctor since then is still alive, but the first 3 Doctors are not alive.
I see.
The 3rd Doctor is interesting because he was a very Earth-based James Bond-esque Doctor who would do was very action-oriented, but essentially in his storyline, the Time Lords banished him to Earth and took away his Tardis for like 3 years. So all his adventures take place on Earth, and he works for this government organization called UNIT, which comes back, which is like this military unit.
That's great.
So he would go around like doing karate and stuff to people in the 70s.
As you want to do,
All right.
70s.
So you're a sonic screwdriver. It's taking the form of a Walter PPK, so you'll be shooting bullets.
Yeah.
Like,
he's the Doctor most likely to kick your ass with some crazy like karate moves.
He the celery one or no? What was his
he would wear like velvet like jackets with like frilly a frilly shirt, kind of. He was very like kind of
That's like smoking
flamboyant.
jacket vibes.
Yeah.
That was
Okay,
3.
okay.
That's 3.
That was
You're
3.
saying.
Yeah,
All
John
right.
Pertwee.
3
was
is
his
my
name.
favorite Doctor.
Wow.
3 is your favorite, and then they went from 3 to 4, which is like the cosmic hobo with his like long scarf. Tom Baker.
He's the scarf guy. Okay.
Yeah,
And he's the second most popular, probably, you would argue.
Yeah, he was
right?
the fan favorite classic Who character before it came back. Now Tennant has kind of overtaken him, but Tom Baker, I mean, the old fans still love him, of course, and he's kind of like the hipster Doctor that people like because he was, you know, his seasons were very like there's a lot of gothic horror vibes in his seasons too, where you would like meet Dracula or something.
God, think about what's on TV. It's competing with Dark Shadows. Like it's the 70s.
Dang, that's a good point.
Soap opera, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like each era of the Doctor is very different, and it's based around, you know, what that Doctor is like, kind of what the vibes of the show are like. Very interesting, kind of just to go back and learn the history of it all. So I guess I'm a super Who fan now. Unfortunately.
So let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
So just to say, because we brought up this term before, Super Who Lock.
Super Who Lock.
The Tumblr fandom that is maybe the biggest fandoms in the world was for Supernatural, Doctor Who, this area specifically, and Sherlock.
And Matt Smith mostly.
Yeah. Okay.
David Tennant, Matt Smith were kind of the Tumblr girl dreamboat doctors, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when South Park is making fun of those episodes where they're like, why are Japanese young girls shipping 2 background characters, you know, and they're like forcing that stuff, it's like what they're commenting on is the phenomenon of Super Who Lock, which was fans being so crazy that they would like change the canon of Supernatural to be like, I don't know, maybe these brothers are gay if it's going to make these, like, you know, girls want, like, they seem to want them to be. Like, should we lean into it?
That was a popular ship was the brothers on Supernatural, which is, you know, I like to stay away from incest in my ships, but that's just me.
Right. Tumbler's going to tumble.
This was mainly, the early
boys,
2010s. Was the kind of the prime of the Super Who Lock, because that was, again, the Matt Smith era. Stephen Moffat was the showrunner who took over Russell T Davies. He created Sherlock. So Sherlock and the Stephen Moffat Doctor Who were running at the same time. So you had all these pasty, thin British blokes, you know, who were beloved by all these teenagers on Tumblr.
And then two twinks killing vampires. I don't understand what the crossover is there. That's
the supernatural
so
part is weird to me, because like I understand Sherlock and Doctor Who, like there's a lot of people that you know, a lot of Anglophile type people that love.
But
British,
if you had said
pasty British
Torchwood was the third, like if you had called it that, I'd be like, yeah, those are the 3 same show. That makes so much sense. The fact that it's supernatural too, they're like, I also kind of like My Boys a little dirty. It's like,
it's
all right.
The Americans, you know,
right?
Throwing a little bit of motor oil, you know.
I don't know. Yeah, and that's kind of why the Matt Smith era gets a little bit of a bad rap, because it's so specific to that like Super Who Lock type of fandom.
The reason I bring it up is it's so interesting, and I just think for fans of pop culture to look at the writers and creators who either lean into it or lean away from it, because I think that's the 2 directions they did go. So
and I'm really not a huge fan of Stephen Moffat. Like compared to Russell T Davies, I think his writing is not as good. I've seen some Sherlock, and I think Sherlock, the writing goes to shit on that show after like the first season. It gets really wacky towards the end, as someone who's
Supernatural runs for 20 years, so there's like nothing to compare it to. It's like it's
very different because British shows, it's very different than American shows. Like British shows, even a long running show like Doctor Who, they have very short seasons with like hour-long specials occasionally, but they don't go past their prime. And even the doctors like leave after 3 years, like each time, because they're like, we don't want to go past our prime. Like the British Office was like 2 seasons. Like that's what they're known for, is like, we'll do 2 8-episode seasons and then the show is over. Whereas America, you have The Office going on way past its prime, right?
Right.
So it's just a very different way of making TV, I guess.
Yeah, Supernatural, they kill the devil, and then it's like, well, what do we do now? And 10 seasons later, you're still doing it. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So very weird, but
I could see a world though where, you know, a Doctor Who pops in like, oh, Sam and Dean, it's a crazy vampire. Like I could see a tonally like appropriate crossover with the way it's kind of Monster of the Week sometimes with Doctor Who.
Do you think it will always live on TV, Jacob, or do you think they'll eventually tire of it and then maybe try to make it like a cinematic universe or, something like that?
I don't know. I mean, the way it's gone so far is that it started to lose, the ratings started to go down after the Matt Smith era. The Peter Capaldi era, there was mixed feelings about it, but it was a losing audience. Then the Jodie Whittaker era, unfortunately, lost a lot more audience.
Not for the reason you think, is the
no
the Community reference or whatever.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Yep.
But so at this point, the BBC was like, "All right, we're losing audience. Like, we need to do something to like juice this show. What are we going to do? We're going to bring back Russell T Davies. We're going to bring back David Tennant. We're going to bring back Catherine Tate."
And it's 2005, baby.
yeah, exactly.
Great.
And that's what these 3 specials, like, that's why they made them. Is like, we need to get our audience back. They also are focusing on they want to focus on a worldwide audience, is what they said, which basically means they want more American viewers. So they're like, we're going to make it more America friendly.
And they recruited you specifically.
Yeah. But they did this deal with Disney now. So that's why all of Who from 2005 to 2022 is on Max, but these 3 new specials are on Disney Plus, and the new Who season is going to be on Disney Plus
going forward.
So I have a question then, Jacob.
Yeah.
Would I be able to, having just seen the Runaway Bride, just watch the specials that have David Tennant and the return?
That's not a way that I would recommend watching it because
I might do it.
Yeah.
Most of the specials, I don't think they're among the best Doctor Who episodes even.
Right.
I would, it's not what I would do. I would personally I would start with season 1 and watch it chronologically. But I mean, you can do whatever you want. But
I'm just curious because I don't know. I'm with Colin where maybe I'm not sold on it. It's a little too British.
I don't think, and I don't think you're going to get more sold on it by watching the Christmas special because it's not the best way to break into the show. If you watch the next one, The Voyage of the Damned, which is again takes place on a space Titanic that is crashing into the Earth with guest star Kylie Minogue, who does a good job, but
she does.
Goofy episode.
Does Dua Lipa?
I'm proud of her.
Is she in any of these? Dua Lipa. I guess let's go ahead and I want to look at.
But
these
I will tell you this.
After
if you wanted to break into it, I would make you a list of like what I consider the best Doctor Who episodes to watch, and just watch those episodes, and maybe that would get you into it.
I mean, that's how you do for Star Trek. You say, watch Measure of a Man, watch some selects, and then you might run through it. So that's probably not a bad idea.
Because again, I think a lot of the Christmas specials, they're just not among the best episodes. I think a lot of them are kind of goofy and they're fun standalone adventures, but there's a lot better episodes of Who. But if you wanted to watch one special that I do highly recommend, it's called The Waters of Mars.
That's
check
right.
that one out.
Up top.
Yeah.
Waters of Mars. Okay, but he's not a Martian. But I did want to say, let's bring this around to the holidays, because that's what we're here for. 'Tis the season to be hooing. So I think and we've talked a lot of Doctor Who, but I think holiday specials, Colin kind of mentioned too, they're not very Christmassy, really. The first one's slightly more so because of the dinner and a Christmas tree attack, but there's not a lot of Christmas
and
DNA in these.
Some of the future ones are more Christmassy. Like Colin, you mentioned, of course, there is one where they meet Santa Claus.
Okay.
I haven't seen a lot of these yet because I'm watching chronologically, but I'm about to get to the first Matt Smith Christmas special, which I'm excited about. But I'm not going to jump ahead and watch a bunch of them. What would be interesting maybe is if you guys watched the new one that's coming out this Christmas, which is the 15th Doctor's first full episode. So maybe you guys could check that out and see what you think of that. I would probably watch the first 3 specials first. But again, if you didn't watch the David Tennant era, you're going to miss a bunch of stuff that's wrapping up. So it's kind of hard to jump in, but
how do they explain that him turning back into David Tennant? They're like, but he's also 45 this time.
Well, it's kind of part of the plot of the show. And I will say, David Tennant has aged very well. He looks great for his age.
And the main selling point I'm walking away is I've watched Good Omens. I watched Jessica Jones.
Sure.
You brought up Harry Potter. All these things where every time I'm like, David Tennant's the best part of this stuff. I do wonder why I don't just watch a full show of him.
You could jump in the second season and just watch his seasons, which is 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
If you wanted to skip the first season, I would say go for it because I do think there's some better episodes in his era. I love David Tennant. Like, I'm a huge fan of him. I think he's so funny and charismatic, and I just love him. I loved him in Jessica Jones. He's playing very much against type as like a villain, a very bad guy. But I love him. Yeah, so I'll watch anything he's in. I gotta check out Broadchurch now.
I keep pitching it, man. He's like so like worn down and like alcoholic and shit. Like he's just not doing great trying to solve this case.
But it's crazy to me that
he's so good in it.
That show was created by Chris Chibnall, who would go on to be a Doctor Who showrunner, and it was the most fans consider the worst era with the worst writing of Doctor Who.
Wow.
So,
and it had Jodie Whittaker and David Tennant there. Yeah. Fascinating.
Bummer.
But we like David Tennant. That's my biggest takeaway is I like him a lot. And I liked him in moments in this. Like when he's shining, he is shining. It's just a little goofy, but I do like David Tennant a lot in this role.
I will say, actually, I would recommend just watching these 3 new specials on Disney Plus if you like David Tennant. You might miss a lot of the references, but it's just fun. The first 2 especially. The third one I didn't like as much. That's the one with Neil Patrick Harris where he's playing the toy maker, a character from the 70s coming back. That's
was that did the James Bond guy fight that one?
Yeah, that was the third Doctor.
Okay. Maybe I'll watch the first toy maker
and then watch the special with Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah, but the toy maker is essentially this godlike entity that is all about games and only follows the rule of the game kind of thing.
Menagerie.
Yeah, but again, that ends with him bi-generating into Ncuti Gatwa. So there's 2 doctors at the same time. Not to spoil it for you guys a little bit, but I am. Because they wanted to write it in a way where essentially the David Tennant Doctor retires from being the Doctor and is like, I'll stay on Earth with Donna Noble's family and just kind of live the ordinary life because I'm so tired from doing all these adventures. You, a new young fresh Doctor, go off and have adventures now. Goodbye. So that's kind of how that ends.
So we no longer have He Who Remains, only one remaining Doctor?
Yeah, but essentially the 15th Doctor is the 14th Doctor from the future after he's managed all of his trauma. This is all part of the episode. It's not the best. It's a little goofy to me, but it's interesting. Because basically, the 14th Doctor comes back because he has all this trauma from all these people that he knew that died or bad things happened to him. It's a lot. It's a lot.
But here's the thing. Because I said to you guys one time, it must be the hardest job in the world to write a Star Trek episode because anything can just be anything, but you also have all these rules to go. If you're Russell T Davies and you solved the math experiment of rebooting a character from this whole other mythos, and then you leave and somebody adds 15 years of stuff on top of that, and you're like, okay, and then you have to come back and untangle that Gordian knot. Exactly. When you say Jacob, you're like, it's a little shaky for me. It's like, you can just imagine him being like, okay, like, and then like, it just has to end in such a way where I have both of them, and like, everybody loves David Tennant. Like, I've got a lot of masters to serve here. Like, and cut me a break.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And because he would go, Stephen Moffat would replace him. He's kind of known for these elaborately complex plots that are like too complex for no reason, just to have like these red herrings and kind of plot devices and stuff, and would get criticized for that because that's something he would do in Sherlock as well. So there's much, like you said, there's so much lore that has happened since the Russell T Davies era that he has to like consider and stuff. It gets very, very messy.
It would be a very hard job. That's all. I'm very impressed you would even attempt it.
So. Yeah. And there's some rumors that the David Tennant, the 14th Doctor, which is the older version, because he's the 10th Doctor and the 14th Doctor, 2 different versions. They're not considered the same character. But there's rumor that they want to at some point do a 14th Doctor spin-off to bring David Tennant back.
I would imagine.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But for right now, he's kind of living a semi-retired life in England, hanging out with Donald Noble.
Oh man, yeah. If Disney Plus has anything to do with it, you'll be getting it soon. And I did not watch Secret Invasion, but I did watch Christmas Invasion, and I'm glad I chose that one instead.
Yeah.
But now it's on Disney. Both of them, incredible.
Well, basically, my mission here was to try to convert you guys to become super Who fans, like I am now.
Right.
Super Hulock fans.
Yes, Super Hulock. I love all those shows. No, I just wanted a long-running sci-fi show that I could kind of binge like I had been Star Trek, and I thought this is the closest thing to it, and it's something that from my teen years that I remembered fondly that I could come back to. And there's 15 years of new material that I've never seen before, so I'm like, let me watch all of that and see how it goes.
I think the great film criticists Jacob Hall and Hoy Tran Boo have a podcast called Who Trek, where they alternate. One of them only likes Doctor Who.
Oh.
One of them only likes Star Trek. Introduce each other, and they every other. And I believe it's from the original canon. I'm not mad, Jacob. Like, when I think about it, I'm like, it's another sci-fi thing in our belt that has a huge canon that I'm glad I dipped into. And going forward, I wouldn't mind if we jump back to a couple more of these every few holidays to be like, let's check in on another Christmas special on the Matt Smith ones or whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. I thought next year we could do like one Matt Smith one and one Peter Capaldi one or something. Because by that point, I'll probably have seen everything, so I'll know which ones to watch. But basically, I was just trying to trick you guys into watching something that I'm into now. So I can get you guys. But no, I had a lot of fun talking about these and watching them. So yeah.
I do think regardless of context, like I may find myself like voluntarily throwing on the ones that are on Disney, just even though I might not get it. I didn't know everything happening in Runaway Bride, but through context, I kind of got, okay, he lost a companion, and
the character
really good
Donna Noble.
Yeah.
And they do enough to explain, like for any new viewers, they'll be like, they will explain certain things that you need to know. And the first two, I think, are actually really good, like better than these episodes, honestly, that we watch, or these specials, I think. Pretty good. Fantastic.
I just want to watch David Tennant raise his eyebrow and look around at stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's aged great. Catherine Tate has aged amazingly well, like considering it's been 15 years, like they both look very, like they have not aged at all. I'm kind of amazed. I mean, actors, they have their secret ways, but he's a distinguished older Doctor now, and I really like it.
All right, no, that's a good
two
sell,
thumbs up. I'm excited about Ncuti Gatwa taking over the role.
Wouldn't you have liked it a little though if they were like, but he's also Scottish this time, like he can do the accents?
That would be amazing. Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, I'm the Doctor.
Alionzi. You're like, oh,
wild.
Yeah. So that's the Doctor. That's Doctor Who.
Yeah,
that's the Doctor.
Christmas.
Let us know,
Runaway
Normies,
Bride.
if you watch along, if you're enjoying the holidays, if you are also in the Tardis right now with your family, kick them out. The Doctor doesn't do families.
That's right.
Get them out.
No, but hopefully you do for your holiday season.
Yeah. Let us know how it's going. Happy holidays from us at Normies Like Us. Hit us up at Normies_like_us. Leave us some holiday love there.
Yep.
Yeah, happy holidays. And if you've seen these new specials, let me know what you thought. And if you're looking forward to the new Doctor and the new direction they're going in, I'm pretty excited for it. I'm going to be watching it. I'm going to be checking it out.
And this was the Christmas specials, but we're cheering on all your holidays. What Honda Days, Toyota-thon, Hanukkah, all that stuff. You guys enjoy it and enjoy
Kiawanza.
Kiawanza.
It's weird that the new episodes do take place in the Neil Patrick Harris Matrix, though. He is still that guy from the Matrix movies. So, interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stephanie shows up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. We've been your hosts. This is the Colin, the let's say the 7th Colin.
Okay, I'll be the 69th Mike.
Hey!
All right, and this is the
420th
Jacob.
Hey,
thanks,
nice,
Normies,
dude.
for coming on this adventure with us.
419th blew his brains out because he just wanted to regenerate right away.
That's right.
Yeah, we gotta go. All right, well,
Hello,
screwdrivers.
Normies.
There we go.
Worth it. See ya.